Okay. I hit a button. Now recording now.
Recording here. Just getting the backup ready.
Oh.
Record. Eat about. Oh, all right. So, Thanksgiving's over. This is one of the first times where we're
something sad.
What's that?
Something sad though. Not sad, but I got my my Spotify year in review, and apparently one of the songs I listened to the most was off of the Destiny OST.
That's awesome. I was in the top 0.005% of Papa Roach listeners this year.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, they had a new album out, and Jacoby was like really big into it, so he played it a bunch on the. Because my Spotify is funny because it's hooked up to our fridge. And so it was like Papa Roach, Nothing More, 10 Years, and then the Nickelodeon TV show Big City Greens.
So Papa Roach plays out of your fridge?
Yeah, so the fridge we have here is like a smart fridge. So it's got speakers and stuff in it, and so you can hook your Spotify up to it, so you can play Spotify through the fridge speakers.
And then if you want to like jam out at the beach, you take your fridge to the beach?
Yep. It's kind of awkward. Like Tiff's like, we can get a Bluetooth speaker. I'm like, no, we got this. Why waste money?
We already paid for this fridge.
Here, get the other side of it.
Yeah. I'll hold the dolly.
Yeah, the shitty part though is when we get to the beach and we forget the extension cord.
Right? That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like, you're standing there and like everybody else is like laying out blankets and stuff like that. And you're like, does anybody have an outlet? I need an outlet.
Yep. The crappy thing about that, no tunes and your fridge doesn't get cold. So you lose all your grub. If I had a nickel,
man,
I'd have 12 cents.
Nothing better. I'll tell you what, though. There is nothing better than sitting on the beach with your fridge blaring out music and you're licking a frozen pizza because you forgot to bring your smart oven.
Yep. We do. They did put a smart oven in this house too. I don't understand it. We hooked it up and I was like, this is stupid. Tiff's like, but I can turn it on from like not at the house. I'm like, that's a horrible idea. Disconnect it.
Yeah. Why would you want that? Who wants that?
Yeah.
Like,
well, the oven will be
We're 30 miles away. I could turn the oven on right now.
Yeah.
That sounds like
I could preheat the oven.
Recipe for disaster.
Does. And then somebody gets in and figures out your code and they're starting your oven all throughout the day. They do it in the summer too.
Can you imagine? Or even like you're asleep and you wake up and your oven's on.
Yeah. Shit freaks me out. I worry about the toilet running. Could you imagine
what's the code to your oven? Now I want to do that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I would try and be helpful though. Like honestly, what I would do is I would try and act like your oven is sentient. Like you'd be sitting here talking to me, and then you'd be like, "Man, I really want to make myself some tea." I'm like, "You should, because the water's already boiling."
Yeah, from upstairs, I just hear, "Oh, it's ready."
Thank you, oven.
But no, we're getting towards the end of the year. We got Bro Huddle scheduled, so that's going to be coming out.
Yeah.
We got a new year. So the one thing I'm going to do, I want to preface this for you. I am going to go over not only the stuff we talked about last year to see if we actually watched it. I'm going to pull up our New Year's draft we did earlier this year and see if we've stuck to what we wanted. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited about it.
All right. I feel like this is just going to be you listing off my dreams that I'm like, nope, didn't do that. Nope.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Didn't see that. Oh, what is life?
I did watch a lot of stuff. There's some things I missed, but I feel like I got the lion's share of stuff watched.
Yeah. I've already went through the episode, and it's kind of interesting because some of the things on last year's I think are going to be on this year's because they didn't come out yet.
Like your book?
Like my book. Actually, we didn't put it on there because we're like George R. R. Martin should like come out with a book now because we didn't say it. He did come out with a book, just not the one we wanted.
Oops.
You know what that big turtle loving guy said? He said he's like 2/3 the way through that next book. I'm like, dude, it has been a decade and a half.
Yeah. I mean, I get that I get it. His books are long, but his books aren't 15 years worth of writing long.
No, he's a slow writer, I think. Like, he did an interview with Stephen King, and he's like, how do you write so many books? And Stephen King's like, well, I try to get 5 good pages a day.
I've heard that about Stephen King, that he tries to write at least like 6 pages a day, 5 to 6 pages a day.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you're that, like, you're just spitting out anything and people read it if it's good or bad. You know, like, you get to that point, like, you could put out, like, you could have like 20 stinkers in a row and they're still going to get bought.
Yeah, especially in his case. But I mean, I don't know. I guess, like, do you feel like Stephen King has books that he's never released? Or do you feel like he has, like, there's gotta be like a bunch of stuff that he's written. Like, he doesn't automatically write 5 pages and he's like, fuck this. Yeah, ship it and send it. This shit's gold. Like, he doesn't do that with like, he can't.
I bet he has some stuff he started that he's like, yeah, I don't want to put this out, but he feels more like the guy who's got a contract of like, we need 3 books a year. And he's like, all right.
Yeah.
He's sitting there watching Kevin Costner in the JFK movie. He's like, you know what if somebody went back in time? 6 weeks later, book.
I mean, yeah, but okay, like, at this point, do you think that he signed, like, somebody's like, you need to put out 3 books a year? He'd be like, fuck you. Like, I've got 12 books that are getting made into TV shows. Like, I could just, like, sit on my couch and collect royalty checks.
Yeah, I don't know. He's somebody that's because that's kind of what I feel George R. R. Martin's doing. He's like, I don't fucking need to do this anymore. I'm gonna go jump on a trampoline for an hour.
I feel like that, like, especially for him, like, I feel like that was the first, like, definitely seasons like 3 through, I don't know, like 5, like 6 or 7. Like, he was definitely not doing anything other than just hanging out. Like,
yeah, I think the TV,
like, once the Red Wedding happened and everybody's like, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever happened to the world. This is the greatest show on television. These books have got it. Like, you know that guy was like, I'm just going to coast on this for the next. He was probably like, I'm going to coast on this for a minute. I'll do some speaking engagements and whatever. And then that just kind of extrapolated into like 4 years of him just hanging out.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because he's at like every award show. I'm like, why wouldn't you? I mean, he was an old guy at that point. Like, he didn't get, like, he was like nerd famous, but he wasn't like MTV famous until like you said, season 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the last book that
now
came
he's
out,
like winning Emmys and shit, and he's like, fuck yes.
Yeah. But I don't know. Stephen King's like, he's an interesting character because I could see him being like, yeah, this book's all right, ship it.
George R. R. Martin seems to me like a guy that has definitely paid for sex in Vegas.
Oh yeah, that dude's definitely
like once he got the money.
Yeah,
like was like at some point in the last like 10 years, at some point he has done a line of code off a hooker's ass.
Well, I was gonna say I bet Stephen King's done that too. He just doesn't remember. He was on a coke bender and paid for a couple prostitutes, and then woke up and wrote like, car. Yeah, he woke up and wrote The Shining. Yeah, he got hit by a car. He's like, "You sons of bitches! Oh, it's a movie." Thinner, ship it.
Yep. No, here's what happened: is he was high on coke, and then he got hit by a car and he was running from the car because he thought the car was a monster. Christine.
Oh, there you go. I was going with Thinner. Because then he beat up like the gypsy woman who came out, and he's like, "Oh, let's reverse this. It's a good idea." I'm trying to think what other things he's done. There's Christine.
You know what I want now? Now I want to meet Stephen King, and I want to do something terrible to him, so that way I can be the subject of a new book.
You know, like
Richard has meet Stephen King and then punch him in the face, and then the next book is all about me.
Oh, and it'd be like podcast based, like everything he listens like. Is like
I don't even have anything
Vince.
Against Stephen King. I like Stephen King. He's not a bad guy, but I want to do something bad to him just so I can be in his next book.
Yeah, it'd be all podcasts where like you're telling like creepy stuff that happens in the future, and he's the only one that knows about it and listens and subscribes.
Yeah,
he tries to stop it.
I'm gonna sleep with Stephen King's wife.
Oh, I'm caressing. I don't know what her name is. We'll call her Susie. I'm caressing Susie's breast right now. He goes upstairs like,
don't you have 6
whore.
pages to write?
5 pages a night, more like 5 fingers a night. Am I right, Steven?
Remember, it's Richard,
reference.
just like it sounds.
Or make it Dick. I don't care. That's what your wife said.
I feel bad. Because, like I said, like I have nothing against Stephen King personally, but I do want to do something terrible to him.
That's a good idea.
In a video game, not in real life.
Yeah. No, for sure. I'm sure he has security. If we got anywhere near him, we'd get tased. But all right. So we're going to be in a Stephen King movie. We're going to get John on for Bro Huddle. And we're going to talk some movies and TV right now. Let's do that.
Let's do that. You're going to tell me this is actually going to be interesting because this is a cultural exchange. That's what this is. So now we're going to do a show. We're going to do a cultural exchange from 2 white guys. Anyway. What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we're speaking the language of bromance. And like I said in our long cold open, we're doing a cultural exchange. Shawn, because Shawn has seen a thing and I've seen a thing, but we have not seen the opposite's thing. So he's gonna tell me about his thing, and I'm gonna tell him about my thing. And this sounds really dirty saying this over a podcast. I just came to that conclusion in my head.
Usually we do this as one episode where we talk about one thing that one of us hasn't seen, and then like I'll have seen it, you haven't seen it, or then you'll have seen it and I haven't seen it. We take the whole episode, but we're gonna kind of cut it up a little bit because
I feel like it's definitely been more you than me, where there's a thing that I haven't seen that you explained to me. And I think the reason is I feel bad because I'm afraid that, like, I don't want to spoil things for you. And so that's why I don't, like, there's tons of stuff that I watch by myself that I don't tell you about, or that maybe I've said that I've watched it, but I don't explain anything to it because I don't want to spoil it for you. But I don't care. Things, like, you can spoil away for me.
Yeah, for most things, if I really, really want to see it, I make sure I see it. But otherwise, I'm in the same boat. Or I'd be like, oh, stop. But there's not really, like, if there's anything I'm going to say, whoa, stop, I'm going to make sure I see it early. Because, with the internet the way it is, it's so easy to get spoiled on stuff. But Richard, I went to the movie theaters and saw the brand spanking new final movie in the Phase 4 of the MCU, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever!
Wakanda Forever! So, movie...
Do you want to give me a non-spoilery, like, truncated review first, and then you can dive in? Because I feel like anybody that's listening is gonna be like, oh my God, I haven't seen it yet. So the TLDR is... this movie worth seeing?
Worth seeing on Disney Plus, I would say.
Really?
Yeah, it was good.
Like I don't need to run to a theater.
No, so I kind of found because I went with my father-in-law because he's starting to go back to movies now that everything's kind of cleared up, and I told him you'll know if it's a really good movie if you see me squirming in my seat because I got to go to the bathroom and I don't go. Yeah. But if you don't see me squirm and I just get up and go to the bathroom, then you know it's kind of a hit or miss movie. And that's kind of how this one was. So I think waiting for Disney Plus, it's definitely worth seeing. And if there's a new movie that I probably would have went and saw instead if I knew this one was kind of like that wait for Disney Plus style. There's a new movie called Devotion, I think. It's about
I haven't heard of this at all.
It looks cool. Like they say, like when you hit 35, you either get into smoking meats or becoming a historical, like World War II buff. And this movie Devotion is a World War II movie.
And I say, why can't you do both?
I agree. That's why I do both. But it's about I don't know his name because I haven't researched a ton, but just from seeing the trailer. But it was like the first or one of the only African American fighter pilots in World War II. And so it kind of follows like his journey and stuff. And I guess like he was like really, really good. Like he did a lot of stuff like in World War II. I don't know exactly what missions or anything, but it seemed like a pretty cool movie and like very, very interesting. But we probably would have went and saw that one instead of this if, like I said, if we knew this was Disney Plus worthy more than theater worthy. But again, worth going to see.
Them's the breaks. Worth going, worth watching. Yes, but worth watching and definitely watch it, but watch it at home. You're not compelled to run to a theater unless you really, really want to.
Agreed. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So spoilery kind of territory. So like,
now we're in the spoilery territory.
Like the first Black Panther, like I absolutely love. I think I saw it at least twice in theaters. Like I saw it like opening night. I think
watched it recently within the last like week and a half because I honestly this isn't a movie that I'm like I don't really care if I want to see it or not. I'm definitely going to see it. It's just a question of whether or not I'm going to go see it in the theater or just wait for it to go on Disney Plus. And I actually was planning on going to see it in the theater, but just it's one of those things that like time has just kind of gotten away from me, so I just haven't had the opportunity to go sit and watch it.
Yeah, and I know, so like my son and I, so I've seen Black Panther like maybe 3 or 4 times. Yeah, but I watched it at home with my son. Black Panther's like, it's Spider-Man and Black Panther. Like they're neck and neck for like his favorite like Marvel superhero.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so like we've watched it together, watched the cartoon and stuff, but so he really liked it, and I really liked the first one too. And with this one, unfortunately, as we know, our lead actor, Chadwick Boseman, passed away in 2020. So like they had to drastically change the plans for what they were wanting to do in this movie. And I don't think they shot anything beforehand. Because I think like they had plans for it, but then when he got sick, they kind of put it on hold. But they did a really, really good job in the first like 10 to 15 minutes of kind of like saying goodbye to Chadwick. Like it was like what I liked about this is like right out of the gate, it's like you don't see him obviously, but they're like,
let's address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, and they don't like that's not the theme of the movie. Like it's like they give a solid first 15 minutes of like, hey, he's sick. She's trying to save him. Oh my God, he's dead. They have the big funeral scene, and then they're kind of like a year later. And
so we've time jumped a year.
There is a little bit of a time jump, and the only like the big problem, like this is a movie where like if you're at home, like I think you could flip through your phone or you could step away and you don't miss a lot. Because the first 45 minutes, because the big question after all this is like, well, who's Black Panther now? Because they talk about like it could be
who's King of Wakanda now?
Yeah, that's the other question. And I don't think they actually. Well, they made his mom queen, so she was kind of running the show. But yeah, the whole question is like, okay, who's the new Black Panther? Because all the flower things, those are gone. Like those don't exist anymore. And so, that's kind of, yeah. And so that's kind of how they played into Namor a little bit, which Namor was a cool addition to this. They didn't do because I guess like Namor in the comics and stuff is from Atlantis, is the way it was told to me.
Yes.
But with this, they kind of moved
he's
it
from Atlantis.
With this, they pushed it more into like the Mayan culture, like they were Mayan civilization, and then like some of them took like basically what was like the Wakanda plant. I don't remember what the Wakanda plant is, but it was like their version of it because vibranium exists there too.
I mean, do they call it Atlantis?
No, that's it. That's basically they tie it to the Mayans, or is it Mayans or Aztecs? One of the two. I think might be Aztecs.
The Mayans, yeah. Either, I mean, yeah. Okay. So they don't actually say Atlantis at all in the whole shebang. It's not.
No, and I think, which is kind of smart because I think if you start like preaching or like talking a lot about like these are from Atlantis, you're gonna like have a lot of people. You're gonna have a lot of people.
You're gonna confuse
Aquaman.
You're gonna confuse it with Aquaman. I mean, I can see it. I mean, it's just kind of like, hey, DC got to the gate first, so now you don't get to say Atlantis anymore.
Pretty much. Which I like that. So somebody was talking about this, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's like MCU's version of Aquaman." And I got to use your quote where it's like, "No, no, no, Aquaman is the DC version of Namor because Namor was first."
Yeah, it's actually Marvel's oldest IP is Namor.
The Namor stuff underwater looked really cool though, and they really play him kind of as an anti-hero. Because he's wanting to stay.
I mean, yeah, he kind of was in the comics. I mean,
which is interesting because
it was definitely like I'm here for Atlantis, and that's where my focus is. I don't really give a shit about the rest of you people.
Yeah, and that's I mean because I
don't want you guys to die, but at the same time, shit happens.
Yeah, and it really kind of like reflects like T'Challa, like in the first Black Panther, where he's like, we don't want people to know about Wakanda. Like they consider him a poor nation, and they want to be left alone. And that's definitely what Namor's in here. He's like, I want to keep my people protected. I don't want to bring any kind of light to them. Because the whole thing is like they get discovered because people are trying to find more vibranium, and they discover that their city is like on top of like another vibranium thing. So it's like Wakanda.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna jack up what they called this. It's like Telecon, the underwater kingdom of Telecon. So basically, like Telecon and Wakanda are like the same thing, except Wakanda is on land, Telecon is in the bottom of the ocean. And with them, when they took their
is Telecon like a break off section of Wakanda?
No, it's
an entirely separate thing that developed like they developed in parallel with Wakanda.
Yeah, but this is Namor's people because like basically, and it is Maya. When they're like, okay, we're gonna leave and we're gonna go to the ocean, and they ate their version of the plant, and it gave them the ability to breathe underwater, and they actually had to be in water too. So Shuri, like, she develops like an artificial plant based off of their plant. And it's kind of this whole, like, they're trying to team up together, but then Namor's like, I want to kill everybody. And like, so that's the part where it kind of gets a little jumbled, and it feels very much kind of like jumping plots. Cause like they get together and he's trying to kill, Ironheart.
So is Namor essentially the villain of the movie?
Kind of,
See, because so first Black Panther, I felt like Killmonger was a fantastic villain. And the reason I say that is because he had a very clear motivation, and it came from a very realistic place. Like you understood what he was about, you understood what he wanted, and you understood why he wanted it. And there wasn't like, and I'm not saying that in a simplistic way. You understood why he felt and did the way he did.
Yeah, and they try to kind of mimic that here. If like you just mentioning that kind of ties it a little bit in that, because Namor, he wanted to save his people and he wanted to keep them safe. This girl at MIT who is going to become Ironheart discovered a way to find vibranium. So the government basically steals that invention from her because she's like in MIT. So like they're like, oh, this works, we're taking it. And so this is
Riri, right?
Yeah, Riri. Yeah, Riri Williams.
Yeah. Okay.
So Namor is like, well, we got to kill this girl because she knows how to create this thing, and I don't want my kingdom to be found. And that's where the confrontation between Wakanda and his kingdom starts up, because he's like, listen, we got to kill her. And Shuri's like, well, no, that's stupid. Why would we do that? Like, we can keep her in Wakanda and we just won't let her make this thing again. But Namor is in that mindset of like, well, they're gonna get her, or they're gonna she is a liability to our safety because nobody knows about us, and I want to keep it that way.
Okay.
And so that's where it kind of felt like it was like a forced confrontation, because like he essentially just says like, listen, you're either going to help me or I'm going to attack Wakanda. So it felt very much like, Richard, you're going to go and you're going to buy me dinner or I'm going to punch you in the face. You're like, well, I don't like either of those options. Well, yeah, I'm just telling you, those are your two options.
I don't want to do either of those things.
Well, if you punch me in the face, I'm going to punch you back. Well, then I'm going to kick you in the balls.
Well, this is escalating in not a great way.
So, and like, the other thing with this, like, I very much had like Batman Begins vibes, where like, you know, you go in to see Batman, and you know, when you go to a Batman movie, what do you want to see on the big screen?
If it's me, I want to see gadgets. I want to see him do detective shit, and I want him punching people in the face.
Yeah, and you want to see him in the suit. You want to see Batman.
Yeah.
And in Batman Begins, like, you don't really get Batman until like the last like 10% of the movie. And that's kind of what you got here too. You know, different things happen. Okay. You're still like, well, who's going to be the Black Panther? And then, do you want to know who the Black Panther is, or do you already know?
You can tell me. I actually think I know, but go ahead.
Okay. But it's Suri. Like, she, with the plant that they had, they gave her like a bracelet that was made out of it. She was able to finish her, synthetic version of their plant. I can't remember what their plant's called. Heart-shaped herb, is that what they call it?
Okay.
Whatever the plant is that if they ingest, they become the Black Panther. She figures it out, she takes it, and all of a sudden now she is the Black Panther. Which, like, you get super strength, you get all these other things, but I didn't really think about this until somebody pointed it out, but it's like, how did she go from like the computer scientist nerd that she eats this plant and now she is like this amazing like fighter? Like, I could see her being strong, but like, you still wouldn't be trained to fight very well.
Yeah, the whole point of T'Challa getting the throne was he had to fight somebody without the strength of the Black Panther.
So that part was kind of interesting because, like, yeah, she's like going toe to toe with Namor. I don't know if this is like legitimately like how he is in the comics and stuff, but if he was out of water for too long, he became weaker.
I don't remember. I mean, I remember, like, I do remember Namor in the comics. I didn't actually read Namor, but I would read other comics that he was in.
Yeah. So. And he had his winged shoes so he could fly, which was cool. But yeah, they go toe to toe.
Yeah. I like that.
And she like really drains him down so that like he's weak because he's out of the water. She puts him like in an oven almost like thing to like, you know, dry him out essentially. And so he's weaker from that and has like their battle, like he has to get in the water, but she gets like the last stand. But like the big battle with like Wakanda and Namor's people is on a ship in the middle of the ocean. And like she kicks his butt. This is the other part that was kind of like it just, I don't know. It felt very, very like just, like I said, quick plot pushed together, like forced confrontations. Because at the end, like there's only like a dozen Wakandans left and they're surrounded by Namor's people. But they basically like call a truce, Shuri and Namor. And then we get back there, like if you saw like, wait a minute, we've got your people surrounded. Like, screw our truce. Like we basically won.
Yeah.
But they call their truce and they kind of go their separate ways. And they kind of made a pact. So Riri's safe. She's going back to school. That was part of their agreement. But they're going to keep Namor's, town safe and like secret.
Uh-huh.
And like Namor, his kind of objective to this is like, well, you know, we know people want vibranium, and right now the only place that they know is Wakanda. Wakanda is going to get attacked at some point. It's just a foregone conclusion. And when that happens, they're going to need our help, and that's going to help us be stronger. So he's kind of playing a little bit of like chess with like the political chess kind of thing.
Okay.
So, and like I said, I feel like there's just a lot of forced plot stuff. And even when you get to the end of it, like there was no very, very end credit scene. Like I sat through the whole credits and there was nothing at the end.
Really? Okay. So so you're saying there is an end credit scene, but it's like a mid.
No, there's the like the post, like, we get like kind of more of the artistic credits where it's like, showing like pictures in the background, right?
Yeah.
Like, the mid credit scene.
Yeah.
There is one of those, which it's kind of cool in a sense, but what happens is that she goes to T'Challa's girlfriend or wife. I'm not sure if they ever got married. And this was
from the first movie.
Yeah, and I will say, like, this was one thing that I really thought was kind of cool. I kind of think like it should almost be like a tradition that should be held up just for everybody. So apparently, I don't know if it's an African thing or if it's just made up Wakanda thing. I'm not sure, but so they had T'Challa's funeral and they all wear specific garb, and then a year later, on the day of his death, or the day of the death of somebody that you love, the last phase of the mourning is you burn the garb that you're wearing during their funeral.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like that last, like, kind of healing, not necessarily letting go.
Like it's your closure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was kind of interesting, like, thing. And so she couldn't do it earlier in the movie, and then like that's how Namor kind of introduces himself, because he gets past all the Wakanda guards. And so at the end of it, she goes to T'Challa's girlfriend, and she's gonna go through this last step and burn the garb, and she's burning it, and that's how the movie ends. And then we get to the mid-credit scene, and that's where we meet a young child who is also named, I think his name was T'Challa. It was T'Challa's son, his 6-year-old son.
Oh, I like that. Oh my God, that works. That works so much, because then you can still make Black Panther movies. You could still, you could do like Black Panther storylines. You could still have a T'Challa.
Yep. Yeah, and so he's 6 right now.
You can have you can have your cake and eat it too. And also, like, I feel like that's in a way, like I feel like that's respectful to Chadwick Boseman's
for sure
role as T'Challa, because I think it was a serious question, like, can anybody else be the play Black Panther? Can anybody else play King T'Challa? In the wake of Chadwick Boseman's death. And like, I feel like this is probably the best way you could do it.
Yeah, because like people talked like Baku, like maybe him being that, but then that feels like it very much shifts. That feels like oh crap, we got to pull for the bench. Because Mbaku, like, I like him as who he is in this. And he plays a huge role in this this movie too, which there's a couple scenes in it that are really funny. Like in the opening, he's on like the council and he's walking and eating a carrot, because you remember they're vegetarians.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's good, because he's like 6 when this takes place. And I'm not sure in terms of like where we are in the MCU, like where this takes place, because this could be like 2 or 3 years prior to where like Quantumanium takes place, because the timeline's all kind of jumbled up right here. But I mean, you like, even if you set, like, let's say you set Wakanda Forever, like, I don't know, maybe like 6 months post Endgame, then that's still like, if you let's say they started working on another Black Panther movie right now, that's still, it wouldn't come out till say 2024, and so you're already 4-5 years removed from Endgame. I mean, just in actual time, not just, Yeah, you have a time
so
jump
here. That kid would be
like
10 or 11 now. If you set, like, let's say you set it then. And
in the way these are kind of jumbled together, like, you could easily bump 10 years and make if you find, I don't know if this kid's going to be who's going to be T'Challa in the future, but you get a 18, 19-year-old person to play a 16, 17-year-old T'Challa, and then there you are. You've got your T'Challa for the future.
Yep, there you go.
It's all the same beats. Like, he's trying.
And that way you still have, you could do storylines from the comic. You could do it. You could do whatever you want. And it's King T'Challa, but it is not. He wouldn't be playing Chadwick Boseman's King T'Challa. Yep. Yeah.
It's not a recasted T'Challa. Yeah, I didn't really think about that too much until just now. But yeah, that is a really good way to do it.
That's probably the best way you could do it. I mean, given circumstances, that in my head, like that's the best way you could probably have your cake and eat it too.
We do get, and the last thing I'll add on this before we jump into what you want to talk about, we do get a surprise not reintroduction, but a surprise cameo by Killmonger.
Really? I like that.
Do you want to know how, or do you want to wait to see?
Yes, I want to know how. Tell me how.
Okay. So when Shuri takes the synthetic heart-shaped herb, she goes on her vision quest. I can't remember what they call it, but like when T'Challa did it, he saw his dad and the other Black Panthers. When she does it, she sees Killmonger. And Killmonger kind of goes on like, you're more like me than you think, cousin. And it kind of goes like, we're both kind of going at more for revenge than like your brother were. So basically it's like, you're more like me than your brother. So that's kind of the battle she has internally. And at the end we find out, no, she's doing better. She's doing like what she needs to for Wakanda, not for revenge. So, but I did like seeing him come back. I was kind of hoping like they'd bring him back, but this could open the door for that too.
Yeah. Now it's official that he's dead. Because before it was like, well, is he dead? Is he really dead?
Oh, yeah.
Because like they were like, oh, you could shoehorn your way out of that, but if in the next movie you show the guys in the afterlife, then he's pretty dead.
Yeah, but I loved Killmonger. I thought it was just well played. Michael B. Jordan just did a great job, and so seeing him come back, it'd be kind of interesting if he kind of plays like, if you could almost do like if Shuri's still Black Panther for a couple more movies, almost like a angel devil type of thing, where she's constantly being pulled between, because her mother passes away in this too. So is that going to be kind of her light, and he'll be more the dark? Yeah, there's a lot of death in this.
Everybody's dying. Oh, what?
Yeah.
That's all. Jeez. All right. Well, you'll be seeing some of these characters again because Ironheart is going to Disney Plus. So
yeah, that one, Riri was okay. Again, I love new character introductions, but sometimes I feel like, and maybe the TV show will help this, but sometimes I feel like they're just kind of thrown in, like. And you just kind of got to accept what they're doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not like a slow burn. It's just like, it's like with Spider-Man you kind of get. Like, because it's like, we all know the story of Spider-Man. So when he jumps up and grabs Captain Shield, it's like, okay, I know who this person is. But this is, Riri Ironheart is a character that, like, don't know a ton about. So I kind of want to be, like, introduced and kind of learn a lot about her and not just be like, oh, here she is and she does this thing. Deal with it. You're like, what? How does she get to that point? Like, give her an opportunity to, like, like, see all that. But yeah,
well, and plus like a lot of her I don't want to say motivation, but a lot of her kind of character background a little bit kind of got stolen by MCU wise, kind of got stolen by Spider-Man, because a lot of the relationship between Peter and Tony is very similar to the relationship between Riri and Tony in the comics.
I gotcha. Yeah, and I wonder if you could go back, would that have been? That feels like that would have been better. Like, I enjoyed the Peter Parker Iron Man stuff, but seeing how Iron Man played out would have been better to kind of have that protege that's that could take the mantle right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Wakanda Forever. Like I said, it's worth seeing. I'd probably wait for it to be on Disney Plus, but if you got a free night and you want to go to the theater, I wouldn't say don't go see it, but yeah. So what have you been watching?
So Shawn, I'm going to tell you about a show that I completely passed off when I heard the announcement. I feel like this has been the case a lot of times with stuff that's been announced, especially when it comes to Star Wars, where I'm like, I'm definitely going to watch this. I don't really know so much about this. This I really don't care about. Shawn, I have finished the finale. So all 11 episodes, 12 of Andor. Shawn, that show is so good. That show not only raises the bar for it's a great Disney Plus show, but I would say that it raises the bar for all Star Wars content.
Nice.
And what I mean by that is, so I'm gonna go ahead and say it right here. I was not a huge, like, completely in the bag diehard fan of Rogue One. Like, I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was decent. I wasn't over the moon about it. The last, like, the last few minutes, the whole scene with Darth Vader, fantastic.
Yeah.
That was amazing. But, like, I wasn't super sold on the movie. So when you tell me that you're going to make a Disney Plus show based on one of the characters from this movie that I was okay with, and not only that, but I also know how his story ends. You're telling me it's about a character that I watched die in a movie. So you know how his story ends. He dies.
Mm-hmm.
He dies in Rogue One. So, Shawn, this show takes place 5 years prior to the events of Rogue One. So we are set 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, actually, because Rogue One butts up right next to A New Hope, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically like when we see Leia getting the codes.
When we see Leia at the end of Rogue One getting the Death Star plans, like, not more than a few hours later is the events of A New Hope.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're winding the clock back 5 years from that point. So we're starting off with Cassian Andor looking for his long lost sister, because he is him and his sister were part of a tribe of kids. Like it was like a Lord of the Flies type of situation was his childhood. So he was on a planet that was deemed mining. It was a mining colony for the Empire. That I guess there was a accident or a disaster that happened, and so the Empire kind of like wrote off the planet. But all these kids are, I'm guessing that their parents died. So there's like this Lord of the Flies situation going on with all these kids basically like in a tribe. Think of it like the Lost Boys.
Yeah. Or like Children of the Corn.
Not the vampires, the Peter Pan kids.
Oh.
No. Not sexy guy with a saxophone. This is like Bangarang Lost Boys.
Rufy.
Oh. Okay, so the first, I think, I can't remember if it's just the first episode or the first two episodes, but it kind of intercuts between his childhood on this Endor-like planet in terms of like climate and geography, and him looking for his sister. Shawn, so when I, like 5 minutes in, you're watching this and you're like, oh my God, this isn't my dad's Star Wars. This isn't what Shawn, he goes to a brothel. He's looking for he's looking for a contact in a brothel. So he's in some, I'm guessing.
I thought you were going to say he was looking for his sister in the brothel. It's like, oh my God.
Goes into a brothel looking for a contact for his sister, so just to preface this, the sister plot line kind of falls away. I will say that.
Okay.
Because he gets caught up in other shit. And so I don't know if the sister plot line is something that's going to happen, is something that's going to get picked up later, maybe in later seasons, which there better be a second season. There's got to be a second season.
Yeah, the wiki just said 24
honestly,
for season 2.
What I need 5 seasons. I need 5 seasons of this show. And this show could easily do 5 seasons.
That's a lot of seasons for a show. We know how it ends.
Exactly. Because you would end this show right up to Rogue One. And then boom, you're golden. So, okay. So I don't know. Do you remember who Cassian Andor was in Rogue One?
Vaguely, yeah. I mean, once I saw his
so in Rogue One, he was the head of Rebel intelligence. So he was like the top spy, and he talked about how, like, he wasn't like a boy. He was not a Boy Scout by any stretch of the imagination. So anyway, so first episode, he's looking for his sister. He gets accosted by these 2 security guards that work for some company, just 2 rando security guards. So the Empire's contracting out work to corporations. Corporations have kind of assumed a de facto, almost like you would expect an imperial dictatorial rule to be. It's just that the Empire's kind of farming that out to corporations to do, because they're doing other shit. So, okay. So again, he's in the brothel. These two security guards are kind of like giving him shit. He ends up murdering both of these guys.
Oh, dang.
Like, and when I say murdering, I mean, one guy is on his knees and he literally shoots this dude in the face. Point blank in the face.
So violence levels going up.
I would say in terms of like violence, that's probably the most violent thing you'll see. Like there's a lot of like, like your in general space violence of people shooting blasters and stuff like that. But this is probably the you're like, ooh, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. Okay, so Cassian is now kind of on the run because he's on the hook for murdering these 2 guards. He's trying to get off of his home planet, and the way he thinks to do it is to sell this piece of a starship that he managed to acquire. The contact is somebody who doesn't care about the piece of the starship, but he instead wants to meet Cassian because he wants to recruit him for a heist.
Okay.
He wants him to, he's like, I need you to join up with this crew and you're going to go on this heist. So that happens. They do the heist. This is kind of the first, I feel like actually, you know what? I'm just going to big picture this, like, and tell you why you should watch the show. Because, I could go into episode by episode. Like you have, the heist stuff. You have the post heist stuff. Like what happens because the job didn't go exactly according to plan. At one point, Cassian does get captured and sent to an Imperial prison where he's like, it's basically like a work camp. Andy Serkis is at that work camp.
I thought I saw. So is he playing? Because he plays somebody else.
One of the prisoners.
Okay.
And he delivers like, okay. What I'm going to say this about Andy Serkis right now. People used to give Andy Serkis shit because he, put on a Gollum suit and did the Gollum voice, and like that's how he got his acting career. And like that's, you know, he's not a quote unquote real actor because he got his start doing mocap, right? Watch him in Andor. This guy delivers a monologue at one point in the show that like pumps you up. Like he's speaking on this microphone to all the prisoners in the camp because they're doing like a breakout, right? And he's, it's his like Cassian, is like, you need to get on the mic, you need to motivate these people to rise up and and get out. Like that's how this is going to happen. And he does it. And you're like, if I was in a prison, I would follow this man into hell.
Well, it's interesting because he played Snoke in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So is there any tie to that, or is it just they wanted him in this too?
No.
Oh.
No.
That'd be cool if there was.
No. The contact is played, the rebel contact. Okay. No, anyway, like I said, I'm getting into too much detail. I'm going to tell you exactly why you should watch this show. This show is not just about Cassian Andor. It's also about the start, the actual literal forming of the rebellion.
Oh, cool.
And not just that, it also shows you what that means, like what the actual forming of a rebellion against a galactic empire, what that looks like, what the cost of that is. Like that, like people die.
Yeah.
And people have to die. And how there are people that are making real sacrifice, like people are making real sacrifices to try and, oppose a galactic empire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the back of your head too, you have to remember that your main character in this, 5 years from when this takes place, he did have the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, okay, like, I don't know, like you watch Star Wars and you see like the Rebel, you go and you see the Rebel Alliance, and it's, a bunch of like guys with X-Wings and they have a base and, but you never stop and go like, how did they get that? Like, how did they get to there? Because you're talking about not only are you talking about a group that literally starts with nothing. Like, how do you get from nothing to a base and X-Wings and recruits, and like, how do you go from zero to there? And not just that, but also what the cost of that is.
Well,
like how does a rebellion in the face of stormtroopers and ISB, which is like the Imperial Security Bureau. The ISB is like the think of it like the Imperial CIA.
Yeah. Well, and like what's interesting is because when you get to the Star Wars stuff, like it's clean cut. It's like it's kind of like almost two countries fighting each other. But how do you get to that point and knowing that like you're not doing all this for you because you're going to die? Like odds are you're going to die. You're doing this for 2 or 3 generations down the line so that they can have it better than you do. So they don't have to go on this road.
So I can't remember the actor's name, but he's one of the guys that's starting the alliance in the show. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember this actor's name. But this guy, I'll tell you what, if there are any future actors listening to this podcast and they're looking for, and they want to, how they do, some actors do like a monologue for like audition tapes and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone's looking for that, for an example of what to do there, You need to listen to. Hang on, I gotta find this guy's name. Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah, Stellan Skarsgård. So he plays.
I'm guessing he's one of the Skarsgård brothers.
Name. No, he's he was in the Marvel movies. He was the other physicist that was with Thor. The guy that Loki mind controls.
Oh, yeah. The older guy?
Yeah. He also played Harkonnen, Baron Harkonnen in Dune. Luthen. So the character. He delivers a monologue. Actually, in the same episode that I was talking about Andy Serkis, he delivers this monologue in that episode that you're just like, that's what it needs to be. Because he's talking to one of his contacts, and he's like, I need you to, be a mole and blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, well, what do you sacrifice? And he's like, oh, bitch. So he goes into, I worked out an equation 5 years ago that has only come to one conclusion. I am completely damned for what I do. He's like, I burn my decency for a future that I will never see.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, because he's right.
Yeah.
I mean, how does a rebel alliance get started? How does somebody manage to find other people that are willing to make sacrifices for stuff, that are willing to come together about stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge risk.
At first, who are you dealing with? Probably you're dealing with criminals, you're dealing with thieves. And so how are you going to, regardless of whatever your cause is, that's your cause. So are you going to be able to trust any of these people?
I mean, it just takes one slip up and everybody's dead, and your rebellion takes so many steps back or gets stopped. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. All these things, all these people doing this stuff, it's for a future they're never going to see. They're realistically going to be dead.
You do see Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma plays a very big role, which I don't know if you know who Mon Mothma is, but she is it's a different actress, but you see her in Return of the Jedi. She's the one that explains the plan to blow up the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi. She wears this big blue robe. Anyway, so in Andor, she's a senator. She's a senator from Chandrila. And she's very vocal against the Empire, which is one thing. But the other thing is that she is secretly trying to bankroll the start of the Rebel Alliance.
Nice.
And so she has her, mask to put on and role to play. And it's such a grown-up show. It's such a grown-up. You wouldn't think that Star Wars would be capable of this kind of I don't want to say drama, but I mean, it is drama, but I guess, serious drama. You wouldn't expect that from a Star Wars show. And you really wouldn't expect it from a Star Wars show based on a B-list character from a B-list character that dies in a movie.
Yeah, but I mean, Rogue One had a pretty serious war movie feel to it. So, I mean,
yes,
at least they're keeping that tone in this as well. No, definitely.
And so, like I said, since you set this 5 years before, you can do 5 seasons of this. Why not? And just show how you just show Cassian's, rise to where he's going to be.
Yeah.
You show the Rebel Alliance going from zero to where it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, you basically the end of this series is the start of Rogue One.
You show what an oppressive galactic regime, their attempts to try to stifle or quell any sort of, dissent.
Yeah, uprising kind of thing.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, it's always interesting, because it's one of those shows I think that'll make you ask questions, because you see, I mean, it's just a show, it's Star Wars, but like somebody that is willing to risk torture and death. And again, I keep going back to a future that they are not going to see. Like that is a very selfless thing to do.
I mean, originally it was kind of sold as a spy, as like Star Wars with like a spy kind of twist. Like that's how the show was originally pitched to me. It was like, oh, it's Star Wars, but they're spies. I'm like, okay, like I guess like that's okay. But once you're at like, I'd say like by episode 2, you kind of have it figured out, like what they're trying to make the show. Like they're trying to say, hey, this show is not just about Cassian Andor. This show is about the start of the Rebel Alliance, and it portrays it in a very real way, and it shows that it really it doesn't so much. I mean, yes, it starts by people, shooting stormtroopers and causing havoc, but it really starts by one person telling another person, hey, the Empire's fucked up and we don't have to take it.
Well, and there's no mention of like the Force or Jedi or anything like that in this, is there? Like
Nope.
I kind of dig that because, I think if Star Wars starts doing things like this, like you can really expand that universe very well, and you can build these different genre type stories.
Yeah, there's not a single mention of Jedi or anything like that. Like that, it's almost like that's a completely different world.
Yeah, which I mean, it would be at this point, right? Like the only Jedi that people know about would be,
especially to them, because not only are obviously none of these people are Jedi, none of these people have any Force sensitivity, but also like at this point we're 14 years into Imperial rule. So anybody that was Force sensitive has either been killed or recruited by the Empire.
Yeah.
So the concept of the Jedi and the Force is like somebody saying I'm from fucking Mars.
Yeah,
like that's
myth.
That's how it would fit in that show.
It's almost folklore-ish, if even that.
Yes. So you don't hear, there isn't a mention of it.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't much you needed to do to sell me on it, but it's definitely going to be something I'm watching soon. Then probably start not tonight, but probably tomorrow.
Oh, it's so good. Like I said, I can't remember what episode you hear those monologues in, but like I've rewatched that episode at least twice because that show perfectly encapsulates not only what the show is, but what the show should be. Like that, it's like the mission statement of the show.
Yeah. Well, and I was looking, so Skarsgård, he's the dad of Alexander and Bill Skarsgård.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
That's interesting. Well, cool. Well, I don't know what more there is to say besides going and watching these two awesome things, but what do you have for some Richard's closing thoughts?
If you're never judge a show by its B-list character, and also, never judge a story by its supporting cast. Everybody has a story, whether it's the sister of the king of Wakanda or a spy who is murdered in a fiery blaze from a Death Star blast.
I like it. All right. Well, let me like I said, go check these things out. But let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Visit our website, we're languageofbros.com. Follow us on Twitter at languageofbro. Email us at bros@languageofbromance.com. And if you want to take that giant leap and join our LOB army, our rebellion, go to our Patreon, just like Wendy and Aaron.
We promise you that you won't die. At least not because of anything we did.
Yeah, we can't promise you won't die because...
Right, but we can promise it will not be our fault.
Yes. Unless you're like, oh, I hate this podcast, and you're trying to change it while you're driving. Which, if you're doing that, stop. Just mute, turn the volume down.
But if you're doing that, that's kind of your fault because you're the one trying to change it.
Yeah, you're supposed to put your phone away when you're driving.
That's right. Arrive alive.
The more you know. All right. Well, is there anything else before I close her out?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, that's all the Bromance we have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And remember, don't be a why. Be a why. Not. And put that phone away.
Arrive alive. Don't text and start a rebellion. No, wait.
Yeah, or
do that. No, you should do that. Just don't do it while you're driving.
Yeah, or if you're Stephen King and George R.R. Martin, just make sure if you're at that same brothel that if you see somebody come in and shoot somebody in the face, you leave.
And then I'm going to walk in and kick Stephen King in the nuts so that way I can be in a book.